Mhm. Okay, so I wanted to get started asking about becoming involved in starring in the movie and what really interested you in the character and the script overall.
Yeah. Well, I first got wind of the movie because Sean Knopp, who's one of the producers of the film, was an actor in a film that I was in called Replace. And we stayed friends over the last couple of years. And he's moved into producing as well. I moved into producing a little bit myself. And Sean produced Sacrifice and asked me if I'd be interested in playing the leader of a cult. And I said, yeah, why not? So that's really how it happened. So he's my liaison to the film. And also it has a lot of roots in Lovecraft, even though it's not based on any Lovecraft story per se. And the fact that the movie was going to be shot in Norway and I was able to go to a beautiful location, the whole package really interested me.
And when you received the script, I also wanted to ask about your research process and maybe how you really prepared for the role. And like you mentioned, the character being the leader of the cult and what that experience was like of really getting to understand her backstory as well.
Yeah, well, I feel like, I watched The Wicker Man. Of course, I watched The Wicker Man many times, but I revisited that and I watched a couple of other movies that were very, cultish. Read some articles and newspaper, magazine and newspaper articles about cults. And also I had to have a Norwegian accent. They said that was very important to them, that I had to be the most Norwegian of any Norwegian in the movie. So they said, can you do a Norwegian accent? And I said, well, I'm sure I can learn how to do one. So I hired a language teacher. I live in San Francisco, from San Francisco, to come to my house. She actually teaches Norwegian and she's from Norway. And she came to my house for, a couple times a week for about 8 weeks. And we would just go over the material and I would record her voice and then she'd listen to me and we'd say the lines back and forth to one another. And I just wanted to be as Norwegian as possible. I watched some Liv Ullmann movies. So it was just important to have that sense that the island was my home and that I was really, very, very Norwegian. So that was really fun. It's really fun to work on an accent. And, also just feeling like, even though she was the leader of a cult, to also, there's a lot of, things about the film that are very Lovecraftian, which, I have a history with, and the fact that the movie is really about what's happening in our world and that, we feel like our cult and our island doesn't really have a say in the way things are done. This is the way it is and we have to abide by it. And without giving away too much about the story, the sacrifice and the things that happen are things that we have to do. And so just the fact of, I think we've all experienced that in this past year as well, just, without thinking about Lovecraft and how, the cosmic undertones of being at the mercy of our world and not understanding what it is. We've been at the mercy. A lot of people feel at the mercy of, our political world and, whoever you agree with and whoever you like. When Trump was president, we have to just abide by Trump's version of the world. And now Biden is president, and we have to abide by, the way that things are done, from a Biden administration. So I just think thinking about how that is and how people have to abide by the bigger universe of their world and who's controlling it is also played a factor in working on the character.
And I also wanted to ask about getting to work with the film's writers and directors, Andy and Tori, and what that process was like of getting to collaborate with the two of them, especially as directors on set as well.
Oh, they were just really great guys. Both of them so funny. Really, there was a lot of humor on set, and they would try to outdo each other with, comments about what we were doing and what was humorous about it. So it was really a fun, joyous set to work on. And Tor was the one that was with the actors more than Andy, who was, he was our DP, our camera person. And Tor was really the one that was speaking with us more. He also was more influential in writing the script and talking about the characters and working out the scenes. So it's nice to work with two different directors and get their two different perspectives. And they worked extremely well together. Really, were completely on the same page about everything. And so it was really fun and easy. And yeah, I had a great time with both of them.
And I also wanted to ask about getting to work with the rest of the cast and really
Mhm.
building those characters' relationships during filming as well.
Well, I have to say, Sophie and Ludovic are two of the finest young actors I've ever worked with. They really, they're the stars of the movie, really, and they did a fantastic job. Both of them have gone to school and studied in London, in theater and just in acting in general. And they're both very dynamic performers, and I found myself really lost in them. And I think that's what you had to happen. Everybody's really immersed in one another, and there was a very comfortable feeling about both of them. And the gals and I, we all shared a house together. So I got to know Sophie very well by sharing a house, and we ate dinner every night together and had breakfast and knocked on the bathroom because we had one bathroom. And so we really became quite close in the month that we were there.
And then, Leslie, I also wanted to ask
Mhm.
about, like you mentioned earlier, getting to film in Norway and what that experience was like, of really being in the real location overall during production.
Well, as you can tell from the film, the locale is gorgeous, and I had heard of the fjords and seen pictures, but I didn't know really what that meant until I got there. And the film deals with a lot of water imagery, and it's part of their landscape. There's so much water. There's lakes, and then and they're called fjords, but there's these mountains that jut up out of the water, and then streams that float down from the mountains into more water. So where does the water start and where does it end? I don't know, but there was water everywhere, and it was just glorious and beautiful to look at. And we stayed at an Airbnb that was at the foot of one of the fjords, and we were able to go on walks when we weren't working, and it was majestic. It was just gorgeous, and it was just such a wonderful place to film. And who would want to leave that island? I mean, we don't want to leave, and we don't want the Sophie and Ludovic's characters who come over to leave. And just the beauty of that was just really helped in telling the story, I think, to make you feel, to lull you in a false sense of security that, this island is your home and you're going to be happy there.
Hey, thank you again for taking the time, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. Nice to see
Yeah,
you.
you too. Thanks again.